Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode. Obviously, for two reasons. Number one, I got another interview coming at you guys with another amazing entrepreneur. The second reason why I'm excited is, I would say, twofold. Number one, it's a person who's obviously helping nonfiction authors, specifically coaches and consultants, really get their voice out there through the means of publishing a book. He's also published his own book called Rise of the Reader, which serves another demographic of people, which something that people really struggle with is they're reading all these books, but they're having trouble retaining the information that they're reading, which means they're not applying that. And he obviously serves the readers to make sure they're retaining the information, applying it, and obviously growing themselves forward. So, Nick Hutchison, welcome to today's episode.
Yeah, excited to be here, Scott. Can I ask you the first question today?
Go right ahead.
What was so at the time of this recording, at least, it's early 2024. We just wrapped up 2023. I'm curious, what was the best book that you read last year?
The War of Art.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. Pressfield is my dude. We've interviewed him a few times on our podcast, and I consider him to be like an extra grandfather or something in my life.
Yeah, it's we have a mastermind where we choose 6 books a year to read. We just heavily believe in personal development and business development. And my wife had read it before, and she said, you know what, let's bring this to the table. She'd kind of dripped on me about the book, but we have a mastermind called Expert Authority. And what I love about this book, it speaks on two specific things. The art of resistance, obviously what that can do and how it can harm you and your business. But number two, what really defines an expert in your field and industry versus an amateur and the correspondence between the two. I thought he just did a brilliant job of defining those to really move the needle forward for people.
Yeah, and he's such a great person to look up to in general as an author. He's so humble. He's very real. He's transparent. And what I love about Pressfield is that he worked from the ages of 20 until 55 without any success. I mean, he literally delayed gratification for over 30 years, focusing on one thing, becoming a professional. And I mean, man, the average person today with all the instant gratification and everything, it's like nobody stands a chance. Nobody would delay their dream for 30 years just to make it happen. So I look at Pressfield as just such an icon in this industry.
Yeah, they see the glory, but they don't know the story. So let me just throw it right back to you. What was the best book or your favorite book that you read last year?
Be Useful by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ooh.
Talk about another person who just leverages visualization. I mean, imagine growing up in rural Austria with no running water to becoming the world's best bodybuilder and then getting paid 10 million a movie, even though you can't speak English very well, nobody can understand you, to then becoming a successful business owner, to then running California, one of the standalone largest economies in the world. I mean, what a cool journey. And just he talks about stoicism and he talks about visualization, and I really enjoyed that book. I'm going to have to go through it again.
Yeah, I love also the documentary on Netflix, because I think what a lot of people fail to recognize, before he became the movie star, he was a millionaire in his mid-20s from real estate that Joe Weider had actually recommended for him to start, investing in. But
Yeah.
my favorite quote from him is, "You can't climb the ladder of success with both hands in your pockets," and it's so true. So. So Nick, you're doing so many great things, obviously, with the agency that you have, and also with Rise of the Reader and all the helping of the people retain what they're reading. If you could rewind the tape of your personal and professional journey and press stop at a moment that you feel was that catalytic moment for you that really kind of set you on the path that you're on, what was that moment for you?
I was not much of a reader growing up. So to give some context, I was more of the athlete stereotype, not really much of the academic. I mean, you couldn't pay me to do my homework. Never mind, like pay attention in class. Everything changed for me when I went from non-reader to reader. And that happened over the course of a couple of weeks between my junior and senior year of college. I took an internship at a local software company. It was a sales internship, and my boss, Kyle, at the time recommended that on my commute, which was an hour each way, 5 days a week, I start listening to podcasts. And I was listening to shows just like this, where a host would interview a series of guests and they would talk about what they did to become successful. And very quickly, I started hearing the same book titles over and over and over again. People were giving credit to the books that they were reading or listening to for their success. And I went to my local Barnes and Noble a couple of weeks in. I grabbed a stack of 10 books, and the rest is history. I haven't looked back since. I've been reading and implementing 50 to 100 books a year ever since. And so that was the period in my life where I feel like the veil was lifted and I could see clearly for the first time. It was pretty sobering.
So why do you feel, there's a lot of avid readers out there. An old business coach and mentor of mine did a challenge where he read a book a day for 30 days. And it was a pretty lofty goal. He did it. And I think for everyone has a different way of reading. My wife does the speed reading. I'm a highlighter, so there's things that I latch on to. I always have a highlighter in all my books where I kind of like note things, and that's how I create the brain tattoos. Why is it hard for most people to retain the information that they're reading? Because I feel that there's so many people in this mode of just education, 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 and not getting into application mode. So what do you find is the big hang up between the two?
Ah, unfortunately, there's no simple answer. There are dozens of hangups between the two that I've discovered over the last 10 years or so. I think number one, we need to stop looking at buying a book or just simply reading a book as the goal. I think that checking off a box like 52 books a year, that's what the average CEO reads. That's a vanity metric. Because if you do a deep dive and truly implement one book a year, you accomplish more than the person who passively reads 52 and does nothing with it. So I think we need to change that expectation. We're not buying books to display them on our bookshelves because they look cool. We're not reading books because if you read and choose not to apply, I would argue that's closer to a form of entertainment than it is education. So it's really only the implementation of material and then the behavior change that comes as a result of it that creates change. That's the goal. That's what we should optimize for. So I love the idea of slowing things down, becoming a little bit more intentional, and setting a goal. I love to follow the SMART goal framework, which is popular in goal setting. I like to set a SMART goal for every book that I read that is specific. It's measurable. I know whether or not the book achieved its goal. It's attainable. It's a realistic goal that doesn't cause me to procrastinate and get overwhelmed. It's relevant, meaning I'm emotionally connected to the book and the outcome that it's promising, meaning it's going to solve a problem or build a skill, nothing else. And it's time bound. I give myself a deadline to take action. Action is baked into every single book that I read. And so by setting a SMART goal and writing it on the inside cover of each book that I read, and then reviewing it every time I go through another chapter, I'm sharing my goal with the book so the book can share the actions that I can take back with me. Nothing else matters other than the actions you're going to take on each book from my perspective. So I think that's the issue is people are not setting goals. They're not baking action into the idea of reading. Reading without action is kind of useless.
I mean, in anything for that matter, if you're not putting any GPS coordinates into your GPS, you're not going to know where you're going. And instead of, taking 15 minutes to get to where you need to go, it takes 15 days and you've wasted a lot of time.
Exactly.
So obviously, the two different arms of your business, your agency, helps nonfiction authors, coaches, and consultants, get their books out there, write books, and obviously the other side, which we'll talk about. But so I was interviewing a gentleman by the name of Dr. Travis Bradbury, who's got a Wall Street best-selling book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. He's released a new book called Emotional Intelligence Habits. And I asked him, what really encouraged you, or what was kind of the driving force behind starting to write books the way that you have been over the last 15 years? And he said that I was mentoring with someone, and I asked my mentor, what do I need to do to really set myself apart from other people and really put myself into that expert category that people are always looking to get into? And the simple response from his mentor was, write a book on your zone of genius. So what are your thoughts, you personally, on that coach, that consultant that has a niche and a demographic of people that they serve that doesn't have a book yet, and how that can really heighten their expertise and really their expert status?
Yeah, who do you want to be coached from? You know, a person who's positioned as an expert because they've written a book and it's a best-selling book, or just the average coach. I mean, yeah, you definitely want to be coached by the author coach, right? So my agency, we're not on the publishing side of things, but we are on the promotion and marketing side of things. So we kind of live at this intersection of books and social media and podcasts, and we can help an author make their book a little bit more actionable. But yeah, we're really on the promo side of things. I think it's incredibly important for anybody that has something truly unique and there's an inbound interest for it, right? You have natural momentum. People are asking you the same questions all the time, and you start to become perceived as this zone of genius expert, like you're credible in one specific thing. Then I think it's important to write a book. You know, sometimes people ask me, like, should everybody write a book? And in today's market, like everybody can write a book, but it's very hard to promote and market one. It's very hard to sell something unless you have a big audience, a lot of money, or something very, very unique to say. And like I said, there's natural momentum coming your way. People are asking you about it all the time. So yeah, I think that, by the way, emotional intelligence 2.0 is lead. And one of the secrets to promoting and marketing a book is to have something unique to say that causes behavior change. When you read Emotional Intelligence 2.0 and you implement what you learn and you become more logical and less emotional, you have more processing time. People sense that. They're like, hey, Scott, hey, Nick, what's different, man? Like you seem really calm. You seem like you're less reactive these days. Oh, yeah, I read this book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, right? That's how these books generate word of mouth for years and years to come because they cause you to change your behavior. And I think it's one of the best kept secrets is like you just need your book to be actionable.
And I agree with that. I've authored 5 books myself. My wife has authored one. We have one coming out, together, called The Feel Good Business Model. It's coming out March 26th at the time that we're recording this. And it's all about action. So we always give people actionable things they can do. I don't want someone reading a book of hot air where they're just reading it. It's just words and it's this, that, or the other. And it's not giving people something to focus on.
Yeah.
In your entrepreneur career, obviously you've interacted, you've met some of the top big names out there, Gary Vaynerchuk and such. Uh, who would you say was the biggest influence on you in your entrepreneurial journey and why?
I've been so fortunate to meet and get coached by, through podcasting and other ways, a lot of really amazing people. The biggest influence in the last 2 years was Alex Hormozy. We interviewed Alex, I want to say it was probably about a year ago for his book, $100 Million Offers, which preceded Leads. And man, I used that book to generate an additional 6 figures of revenue within a couple of months in my business by just changing offer structures. And like people talk about a return on investment from books. If you knew you were going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars by reading a book, would you do it? Like, heck yes, you would do it, right? But that's the power of what these books can do because that book, $100 Million Offers, it's taking complex business offer structures, guarantee structures, simplifying it to like a 3rd to 5th grade reading level. He gives you the exercises and steps to implement. He's condensing decades of his lived experience and business, acumen into days of reading. And then boom, money comes out of nowhere. Like obviously there are some additional steps there, but that's what happens when you implement a book effectively. And so shout out to Alex. Thank you for writing that book. And then more recently, I'll give one more shout out. I think the biggest book that the biggest impact that a book will make for me this year, 2024, it's already happening, is 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. What an amazing book. It essentially says the fastest way to double your business is to behave as if your business was 10 times bigger than it is. And that forces you to do that 80-20 analysis, but like to the nth degree, and really force you to start automating, delegating, and eliminating low impact activities to kind of build out your new business. So really excited about that one for this year.
Yeah, that book has come up a few times for me recently. I was listening to one of my old coaches, Chris Harder, him and his wife Lori. They always do a he said, she said type of dual podcast episode, and they were mentioning that a few weeks ago. And I agree with that. You have to have lofty goals and you have to reach for the stars. And again, if you have smaller goals, you're going to have smaller results. But if you have those big, hairy, audacious goals and you're taking that big action, you may not 10x your business, but you may 3 to 4x your business in the process, which is a huge accomplishment in itself. So obviously, I love how you stated that one of the things that you do personally is on the inside of every book that you read, obviously is the goal, something that you want to take away from it. So there's action behind it. And that is one of the strategies that I'm assuming that you teach with the rise of the reader community that you've built. And I just ordered the book myself. I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to digging into that. What is your advice to those people that have so much shelf help and so many? I mean, I have a bookcase here, I have a bookcase here, we have a bookcase we have books everywhere around this house. My wife's office, we have a whole dedicated bookshelf in our basement. For the people that continue to just hit buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now, and they have just stacks of really pretty books coming into their home and they're just not doing anything with them, what's your advice to that person that has so much shelf help that really needs to go back and read what they have first before they start adding more onto their plate?
Yeah, I would say awareness is really important here. And this is the opportunity to slow down, like this moment in time as you're listening or watching this podcast. Really ask yourself the following question. What problem am I dealing with on a daily basis that I just can't get rid of? And it can be personal, it can be professional, it can be related to your health, your relationships, whatever. What problem are you facing on a daily basis that is causing some type of pain in your life? The reality is, as human beings, that we are not very unique. Despite how unique we think we are, about 100 billion people have lived before us. And a lot of them spent decades trying to overcome the same problem you're facing today. And they've documented the solution inside of a book. Here's another way of framing this. If you don't fix your problem over the next 30 years, you'll experience it 11,000 more times, right? 30 times 365. So stop reading, stop ordering these books, and go pick up just one that you focus on for the next couple of months that has the solution to your problem. Read the book, implement the solution, solve the problem, and watch the pain go away. And you'll become addicted to that process of, again, solving problems, building skills. That's why we read these books. It's not about 52 or 100 books a year. It's about solving a few big problems a year. That's what it's really about. Now, you'll get more efficient at that process, right? I'm still reading 50 to 100 books a year right now, but I'm taking at least one action and using that SMART goal framework, holding myself accountable, just one action from every single book that I read. That's where the magic happens from my perspective.
I think that's just so brilliant because you're breaking an entire book down into just one simple action. And I feel, and I would love to hear your opinion on this, is that less is sometimes more. So it's much easier to apply one specific goal than having 5 to 10 things written down from that book. It's so if you could take 10 books and have one action item from each of those books and apply those 10 habits, obviously it's going to move the needle forward. So in your opinion, how important is it for that entrepreneur, that coach, that consultant to simplify the goals that they have?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. There's a great metaphor that I heard, and I wish I could give it proper credit, but the metaphor kind of goes like this. Imagine you pick up one bowling ball. Okay, you've got it in your right hand. You pick up another bowling ball. You've got it in your left hand. You pick up a third. Maybe you stack it on top. You pick up a fourth. Well, what happens? You drop all four. Not just the one that you picked up, you drop all four. And I think the same thing happens when we try to hoard book notes. Like you pick up one thing. Okay, two, maybe that's manageable. Three, four, all of a sudden you drop everything and you take no action. So there is sort of a point of diminishing returns where you go from adding just a little bit too much, now you take no action. And so I think the most sustainable approach is to start small, leverage the compound effect. Small steps in the right direction over a long period of time. That's where the magic happens. So yeah, just one thing from every book. And you can go back through the books. It's not like you're one and done. I mean, I've read some books 8, 10 times, and I take one new action every single time.
That's us. The Science of Getting Rich is one of our kind of
Yeah.
like foundational books, just because the one thing, there are many nuggets in that book, but I would say the one thing that I always come back to is live in a world of creation and collaboration instead of a world of competition and comparison. So have read a ton of books. Was there a book that you've read in the last year or two that caught you completely off guard as far as like just mind-boggling and changing in a positive way that you really didn't expect that from the book that you read?
Yeah, I'll give another shout out to Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. They wrote a book called Who Not How. And such a brilliant concept, so easy to understand, but you need to read the entire book to actually implement it, I think. So, who, not how. As an entrepreneur, instead of asking, how do I achieve goals, you simply shift the question to who can help me achieve this goal. And that was like, for me, it sounds so simple. Everybody gets it in the first 2 seconds. But seriously, think about the last time that you tried to do something in your own business where you could have outsourced it to somebody else, like building your own website, editing your own podcast, building your own social media content, sourcing your own guests, lead generation, sales calls. Like, who could do that more efficiently than me? That's how you scale. You add leverage, you build teams, you collaborate. And that's taken my business to a whole nother level over the last couple of months.
I love that. So for the person that's listening to this, Nick, talk a little bit about how you serve people, not just from the agency side of things, but through the rise of the reader group and the hundreds of thousands of people that you're actually helping to not just read books, but to read, learn, apply, and take action.
Yep. So on the agency side of things, like I mentioned before, we've got 10 people on our team. We work with over 100 nonfiction authors a year. There's sort of 3 core services that we offer, and you're more than happy. Anybody can reach out. We could set up a call and chat about them. We help authors turn their books into short form video content by flying out with the cameras and the lighting and working with them to build solid, organic lead generation style content. Number 2, podcast booking. So placing authors on shows in front of the right niche to talk about their book. And then number 3, we have a community, BookThinkers, of over a couple 100,000 followers. It's all organic, it's all real, and we help authors sell books into our community. Then on the other side of things, we have that community, right? So every day we're putting out new book recommendations. We host a podcast where we've interviewed names like Grant Cardone and Patrick Bet-David and Ryan Holiday and Robert Greene and Pressfield and some really cool humans. So that's a book discovery tool as well. And then we've got my book, Rise of the Reader, Strategies for Mastering Your Reading Habits and Applying What You Learn. So I would recommend that everybody check out BookThinkers on Instagram. That's our largest and most vibrant community. And you can get, you can get a lot of cool book recommendations over there.
Well, I just got a bunch on here today, so I appreciate that. So obviously all the information that Nick just dropped as far as how to connect with him, his communities will be in the show notes, the description of this episode, and the email obviously that went out for you guys to listen to this. So Nick, before we close out, final question. What does success truly mean to you?
5 words: enjoying the passage of time.
Short,
Period.
sweet, simple. That's it. That's a mic drop moment right there. And I completely agree. There is so much to enjoy each and every day that we're given. And I just want to give a shout out to you, just for the people that you're serving, how you're helping people. And again, I just know how impactful it would be for the people that are listening to this, just to be a part of your community where they're going to learn how to better retain the information that they read to apply, because just learning those skills from you and how to take action from what they're reading is going to cause a ripple effect in the businesses that they have. So Nick, just want to thank you first and foremost for being on here today and sharing your wisdom. But number 2, first time ever, nearly 600 episodes, that someone led off with asking me a question, as opposed to, so there's a first for everything. And I actually loved it because it just opened up the airways immediately, because as the interviewer, sometimes you're so honed in on the things that you want to ask. I think you did a phenomenal job of just kind of turning the mirror around and saying, let me ask you something to lead off before we dive in today. So just appreciate you and what you brought to today's episode, and just very grateful for our connection. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Scott.
So again, all the information of how to connect with Nick and everything that he's doing to serve his community will be in the show notes and the description as mentioned. So again, appreciate everybody. You know what our goal is this year. It's the road to a million downloads. We are over 70% of the way there. So this is the year that we're going to do it, and I can't do it without all your help. So again, thank you for your continued support. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love and gratitude, and I'll talk to you next time.